Welcome to Turning the Page. I'm host Donnie Morse of Confetti Antiques and Books, and today we're pleased to have with us Todd Cope, who's an author who's written a new book, The Caregiver's Journey. Todd, tell us a little bit about your previous works.
Well, this is actually my fifth book. The other four are novels, so this is my first attempt at a nonfiction work. The first book was based on some events in my life. I'm a registered nurse. Had the opportunity of caring for a school teacher of mine, my junior high school typing class teacher, and she passed away, and that really impacted my life. And I wrote a book in tribute to her, basically, and was fortunate enough to have that book turned into or at least it was the basis for a television movie that starred Maureen O'Hara, and so that was quite an exciting trip a number of years ago to go through that. And following that, I wrote 3 additional novels that were published locally here with Cedar Fort Publishing, and they did all right. And I thought maybe I was done with writing books. But the demand was here for this book, based on, again, experiences I had at work with people asking questions about how to care for elderly loved ones. And this book is the result.
So the Caregiver's Journey is not a work of fiction. It is a handbook, shall we say, to help people get through some difficult times?
Yeah, it is a guide, no fiction. In fact, each of the sections of the book starts out with a real story, a true event, or something that has happened, something I've witnessed or that I've taken part in, that kind of gives people a feel for, okay, this is what we can expect to learn in this particular section. The book is really designed to help caregivers, people who find themselves caring for an elderly loved one. It can even be helpful to people that are employed to do that, but it's particularly for those who just find themselves as a family caregiver or a caregiver of a loved one, and they don't know where to begin. You know, how do we start this process? What can we expect? And so the book is kind of a guide, if you will, a travel guide to kind of get you through that.
Here on the back, I wanted to just mention these. It says, learn how to make difficult decisions as a family, determine how to accept help, preserve priceless memories and mementos, prevent caregiver burnout, and find additional resources in our community. Mm-hmm. So is that kind of the direction the book goes then?
Yes, I mean, that's included in it. It's kind of interesting. It's a rather small book intentionally, and yet it covers just a wide variety of subjects and topics related to caregiving. And the purpose for that is, as a professional caregiver, I'm, as I said, a registered nurse, and I spent 12 years as director of nursing at an assisted living facility. And during that time, I regularly had people coming to me and saying, you know, how do I do this, or I don't know how to deal with this particular situation. And as I worked with them to get through that situation, I finally decided maybe it'd be a good idea to write this down so I could share it with more people. Because typically the resource I would refer them to, or resources, were books that were very lengthy, detailed, had data that they didn't want or need, and they just didn't have time to get through it. You know, to read through a 500-page book to learn how to do something simple is more than most people have time to do, especially if they're busy as a caregiver. So this is a concise guide to get started. It doesn't get into the details. It just prepares people for what to expect and gives them some direction as to where to go to get the additional help they need.
Now, one of the things that everyone seems like they're going to face is, as a parent gets older, deciding about the driver's license. Is that something that you specifically talk about here in the Caregiver's Journey?
Yes, there's actually one of the stories that I share is a story, and as I share these stories, as I said, they're real events. They actually occurred. Of course, I've changed names and situations enough that somebody reading it wouldn't be able to pick out who they were talking about. But in this particular case, the driver's license situation was very personal because it was the story of how we took care of that with my father.
Oh, I see.
A very difficult time, because often a driver's license is the last independent thing that they have, that ability to take themselves places. And you take that away and it just leaves them with, sometimes they feel like nothing. And so it can be very difficult. And so I do address that and other related circumstances, you know, how to deal with that, to negotiate with a loved one.
So the potential issues that could come up and
Exactly.
resolution of those things.
Yeah. And obviously in a book like this, you can't have all the answers. No one has all the answers. But the stories and things that are included provide a foundation that people can build on. It will spark thoughts, and it will help them realize, okay, this is similar to what I went through, and this is how I can adapt it to fit in my circumstance.
All right. So besides the driver's license, what are some of the other issues that might come up?
Well, how to care for a loved one, is it best to do so in the home? You know, it used to be in Western society, well, in all societies. In the East, they still do it this way. The family is so important. The loved ones all stay together, and elderly family members are a part of the family forever. But it's changed here in Western society. It's kind of difficult to have a loved one living at home when you have to take the carpool to school and you have to drive your son or daughter to the next town to their job. It makes it very difficult to do that. And so it addresses how to best care for a loved one and where to best care for them. Perhaps home is the best, but then again, maybe it needs to be in assisted living, or maybe they need more care than that and they have to be somewhere with some full-time professional help, like in a skilled nursing facility. Home health is an option, and there's ways of just having other paid or volunteer caregivers help part-time. So,
you know, as a member of the community here, I myself am excited to get into the book a little deeper and see, because I've run into this not just with my own family, but with neighbors and with people that I have responsibilities for, that I think this will be very helpful to them and to their families.
right.
So besides people coming to you as a professional and with questions about needs, is there any other reasons why you wrote the book?
You know, I mentioned that I've been a professional for about 26 years now. And I'm in a unique situation because not only do I do it for a living, but my parents are aging, or actually my mother. My father passed away a few years ago, and I was his primary caregiver, and my mother now 95 years old, and we're still providing care for her. And so it really helped me to be able to write some of these things down. Although I knew what I should do and had probably experienced many of these things before, it was good for me to sit down and put them into writing and to collect and organize them. And so that was helpful, I guess. In that regard, it was a little bit selfish. It was something also that I felt would be a benefit to my family. I'm one of 13 children, so although I am greatly involved with the care of my mother, there's a lot of other people involved as well.
One of 13.
Yeah.
You don't see that too often anymore.
Not these days.
So we're here with Todd Cope, author of The Caregiver's Journey. We'll be right back. We'll talk about end-of-life decisions. This is Turning the Page. We're here with Todd Cope, author of The Caregiver's Journey. Before we went to commercial break, we talked a little bit about end-of-life decisions. Todd, does The Caregiver's Journey address those issues?
It does, and really the title, The Caregiver's Journey, relates to how the book is laid out. It kind of corresponds or correlates to a journey or a trip. And so it takes you from the beginning stages right through the end. And as I address it in the book, I talk about the end of life being not the end, but as you reach that destination, then what do you do once you get there? And so it talks about the preparation for that dying process. I mean, we all are going to be there one day, and as we're caring for the elderly, they're going to face that. And so we have to prepare. And it talks about the preparation on both sides to help them prepare. The caregiver also needs to prepare. The family needs to prepare. And there's some tough things to maybe, I guess, prepare for. You just don't know what you're going to expect because everybody doesn't die the same. And it addresses that fact. And it also addresses how, as a caregiver, you deal with it once that passing has occurred. Then how do you carry on with life yourself after that?
I see. So Caregiver's Journey, $11.99. They can pick it up here, of course, at Confetti Antiques. Where else can they get the book?
It's available at local bookstores. Of course, everybody loves Amazon and other online places these days, so it is available there as well.
And published here locally?
Published by Cedar Fort locally.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about the issues or the decisions that are coming up as a caregiver. Do you address a lot of the joy and the pleasant stuff that might come up?
Yeah, there is plenty of discussion on how we can learn and gain things and experience the joy that comes from providing care for loved ones. In fact, there's a whole section dedicated to humor and to laughing and the funny things that sometimes happen, those things that have to be shared, and how to do so without, belittling your loved one. As I said, I start each section with a real life story, but that section is started with several funny stories, things that really occurred, and get people laughing because sometimes some interesting things happen. For example, a story there about the daughter that comes in and her mother is just laughing and she can hardly get her mother to speak, finally gets her mother to tell her what happened, and the mother was going to take her pills and accidentally grabbed her hearing aid batteries and took her hearing aid batteries instead. So
And she laughed about it.
She laughed about it, and I'll leave you to read the book to find out what they said, because probably not appropriate. No, it's...
Well, Todd Cope, you're from Spanish Fork here?
Grew up here in Spanish Fork.
Okay, so a local author, written a local book, The Caregiver's Journey, something that I think, again, as the baby boomers get a little older, that every family is going to want to figure out and know how to take care of those, as you say, aging parents, because all of us have got those. Todd, is there anything that you would like to leave with the audience today?
I just think it's a problem that maybe people don't even think about. I've had a lot of people say to me, "Oh, that will be good subject to read someday," and I'm thinking someday is now, because we never know how soon that will sneak up upon us. There are an estimated 65 million caregivers in the United States right now, and most of those people most of them are female, and most of them have some kind of a life or career beside caregiving, and they're spending an average of 20 hours a week outside of the other things they have to do in life. And so this is a real issue that is going to only grow with, as you say, the baby boomers, and we're just at the beginning of those people starting to really get elderly and retire, and now the millennials are going to start facing that and being caregivers. This is a great preparation for anybody, and even if you're already on the journey, it's a fantastic way to, ease the rest of the journey and help you feel a little bit more relaxed in what you're doing.
Well, I really like your subtitle, Compassionate and Informed Care for a Loved One. The Caregiver's Journey, Todd Cope, here at Confetti Antiques and Books. This is Turning the Page. Thanks for being with us.